Cheers.
Cheers. Here's to many more years.
What was it like, sort of walking into the history books?
You know, I'm really happy I'm able to come out and tell my story.
After being HIV positive for more than 30 years, Paul Edmonds is only the 5th person in the entire world to apparently be cured from the virus. But it was another devastating diagnosis that led him there. Until today, the 67-year-old has remained anonymous, known as the City of Hope patient, named after the hospital where he was treated.
You know, so few people this has happened to. I'm not sure how I became so fortunate.
A small-town boy from the South, Paul spent his youth struggling to find where he fit in.
What was it like growing up gay in Georgia in a Southern Baptist family?
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. Confusing for me, and I just knew I was different.
As a young adult, Paul decided to take a big leap.
When I was 21, I was hearing about gay culture in San Francisco, so I took off.
San Francisco was long recognized as the gay capital of the U.S. by the time Paul landed there in the mid-70s.
It was very exciting. I just had never experienced anything like this.
But by the early 80s, a dark cloud moved over the gay liberation movement.
The potentially fatal disease, unknown just months ago, is spreading so quickly that doctors now say it's a national epidemic.
It was quite scary. No one really knew what was happening.
Gay men across the U.S. died by the thousands of AIDS. Paul anxiously lost friends and loved ones with no cure in sight.
Every week they would come out with obituaries.
It still makes you emotional. It's a lot of friends to lose.
Yeah.
That must have been a really scary time.
In the beginning, it was like a curse. People were afraid of each other. I wasn't ready to be tested because I kind of felt like that's going to mean a death sentence.
But in 1988, he finally got tested. The results, positive for HIV.
It shocked me. It was something I didn't want to believe.
What went through your mind when you saw the result?
Well, death, you know.
More than 3 decades later, Paul is still here. So is the threat of HIV. For Paul, the disease became manageable, but for others, it's still a looming threat. As of 2019, an estimated 1.2 million people in the U.S. were living with the disease, and 1 in 7 don't even know they're HIV positive. Major cities like D.C., New York, and San Francisco are all seeing increases in new cases between 2020 and 2021. Doctors say the real key to treating and ultimately ending HIV is testing. Back in the ACT UP days, it was silence equals death. Now, in many ways, stigma can equal death.
It is a huge barrier because by having that stigma, people are less likely to get tested, and by being less likely to get tested, they're also not going to be offered the therapy that they need.
4 years into his diagnosis, the skies cleared a bit when Paul fell for an Air Force veteran, Arnie House.
We met in San Francisco. I was at a happy hour.
Paul walked in, and I saw him, and I immediately knew that I had to talk to him. So I went over to him and whispered in his ear. I said, "I want to know you."
The two became inseparable, Paul eventually convincing Arnie to get tested.
He took me to the clinic. He said, "We need to find out." And that point saved my life. So finding out when I did, I was able to start medication and start a new lifestyle.
But over time, better antiretrovirals brought both of their HIV levels to undetectable, which equals untransmittable, their medication boosting and prolonging their lifespan. But another diagnosis was looming. In 2018, Paul learned he had leukemia.
Did it feel like a second brush with mortality?
Well, you know, I didn't allow myself to go to the worst case scenario. Because I had dealt with HIV for so many years, I was much better prepared to approach this and deal with it.
What kept you going?
That positive attitude. I wasn't ready to die.
After chemo, Paul was offered a bone marrow transplant as a permanent cure for leukemia. Plus, an added bonus. This particular donor was resistant to HIV infection due to a rare mutation.
It exists in roughly 1% of the population, so it's not something we find very commonly.
What was that like, hearing the news that this moonshot was even possible?
Yeah, just incredible. Almost unbelievable.
The chemo for the transplant, challenging. The outcome, game-changing. Paul's leukemia remained in remission.
That was like the best news I had ever heard.
But the news only got better.
We watched him extremely closely with blood tests, and every week when I was like, your viral load's still undetectable, it was just so exciting.
It's been 2 years since Paul has been able to stop taking his HIV medication altogether. His story bringing many hope for the future of a virus that's infected more than 84 million people worldwide.
I was grateful to be alive. I was grateful there was a donor. Very, very grateful.
Yes.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.